Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, where meaningful conversations inspire leadership, connection, and possibility. Hosted by Dr. Summer Watson, this internationally recognized podcast features women who are making an impact in business, community, education, healthcare, and beyond. Through honest stories and practical wisdom, we explore what it means to lead, grow, and thrive in a rapidly changing world. And now, your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Welcome to the Core Women Podcast. Today, I'm honored to welcome Claudia Noriega Bernstein, who is an artist, writer, philanthropist, inner abundance coach for women, author, and host of the podcast, Don't Shrink to Fit. Her work centers on helping women step into their power and live more authentic lives. Drawing on her experience as a journalist in both South America and the United States, Claudia has explored topics ranging from parenting and personal growth to forgiveness and social issues. Through her coaching and writing, she encourages women to overcome limiting beliefs, embracing authenticity, build resilience, and create lives filled with confidence, purpose, and inner abundance. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you so much, Summer. This is such a great opportunity for us to share this time and to maybe inspire somebody that is listening.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here with you. Before we really jump into that professional journey, I'd like to ask you a question. If you could describe your life to this point in one word, what would that word be and why?
I think would be unbecoming. I think my journey up to maybe my 30s was becoming somebody that I thought the world wanted me to be. You know, my mom, my friends, the community, everybody else. When I had this aha moment, from that day on, I'm becoming that and finding my true self.
I love that. In becoming, your journey has taken you in so many different directions, from journalism to coaching, mentoring women, author, artist. What experiences led you to the work that's helping women discover their inner abundance today?
I think it was really the realization that I was meant for more and I didn't know what that was. You know, when we talk about being stuck, you hear a lot of people talking, especially online, are you stuck? Are you stuck? But what it is being stuck, is when you overgrow pretty much your situation and you want more because whatever you have right now is not enough. And I think for me it was that, but it was also seeing how my upbringing and the conditioning had influenced me in so many ways. And I for sure didn't want to be the mom that I had. Nothing wrong with her as a human. She also received a conditioning and she made the choice to continue that conditioning. But I wanted to be my lineage breaker. I wanted to stop it there. I wanted to look at my kids and say, it stops with me. You no longer have to be whoever everybody else wants you to be. You don't have to question your worth. You don't have to question if you're deserving of love or not. You don't have to work so then you feel validated. You can just be yourself and your crowd will find you. Your community would embrace you. That sense of belonging will come with finding yourself, not from shrinking to fit in places that perhaps you're not even welcome.
I love so many things about what you just mentioned about fitting into places where you're not even welcome. That was such a big deal, at least for me growing up too. Coming from a very diverse background, mom being Armenian and European, dad being Filipino and Hispanic. And it was, you're never enough of this. You're never enough of that. There's that conditioning from our parents, the clergy, our educators. There's all that conditioning. So, my question for you, Claudia, is how did you break free from that through your development, your journey? That conditioning can go deep.
To make the story short, after I got divorced, I asked my mom to come and visit and watch my girls so I could go and get a job for the interviews. And when I came back home, I found my, at that time, 2-year-old in the closet, and her hand was swollen because my mom had smacked her. And I saw my little maiden there. That was my inner child. That was me at 6 years old. And that was a punch. The universe, God, was punching me in the face and say, okay, you make the decision right now, this minute. Is this what you want for your kids? And mind you, I never had touched my kids, but I saw how strong the conditioning was. And I realized in that moment I had to make some changes. Not only I had to put a little bit of distance from people, even they were my family, even if they were blood related to me, that were not adding to the vision I had for my daughters, or they were gonna follow that conditioning. So that was the moment. And then from that day on, it was little steps. And sometimes they're tiny little steps. But what my higher self would do in this situation. And I went as far as creating an avatar about myself. How Claudia would look if she would be her higher self, what decisions she would make, who she would hang out with, who she would date, what kind of a mother she would be, what kind of an answer she would give to her daughters. So that was my guiding line. And of course, I failed many times because the conditioning, as you said, is very strong. So I would fall into old patterns, but then I would catch myself. And instead of backpedal in the moment, I learned to pause. And I learned to ask my kids to hold space for me and give me grace. I used to use the word maybe. So when my kids will ask for something, I never would say yes or no. I would say maybe. And that would buy me time. So I was very on purpose when I would give an answer. And they learn that maybe doesn't mean no. Maybe might be yes, but mom needs time to evaluate the situation. Because my ex-husband that passed away, and we were very fortunate to rebuild a relationship where my kids never had to choose or hear the other parents bad mouthing each other. He was very much on board, but he was very absent. So I was mom and dad. So I didn't have the luxury of saying, "I'll stay with your dad for a couple of hours while I, make myself neutral so I can come from a place of love." No, no, no. I didn't have that luxury. So it was like, you know what? Mommy is really upset right now. And when people are upset, they say things they don't mean. So I'm going to take a minute to regulate myself. And I will use those words with them. So at some point, they were familiar. Mom is regulating herself.
Yeah.
And they also give them permission to ask for time, to take space. I remember clearly one time that one of my kids says, "I need some space." And I was like, "There is no space between you and I." Like Spanglish movie, like that. What space? Me? I'm your mother. How dare you? And then I hear myself saying those words, and I saw my mother in me. And I was like, "No, wait." So then I had to repair. Then I had to go back and say, "Hey, I get it. I apologize for responding that way. I am going to give you the space and then we can have a communication." So it wasn't like I was enlightening one day and I was like, "Woo, now I am the perfect mother." No, didn't happen that way. Okay. It took a lot of tries and I messed up a lot of ways. But eventually I fall into this rhythm where I allow myself to take up space and allow my kids to feel that it was okay, especially as women, to take up space.
Absolutely. I love so many things that you've mentioned there, especially when you're responding to that question of how did you move past that conditioning? Because it can be tough. And many women struggle with those limiting beliefs that hold them back. How can someone begin to identify the stories they're telling themselves that no longer serve them? And you did that, and you modeled for your children
Mm-hmm.
those words, those phrases, the actions. It doesn't come naturally because we learn what we see every day, what's imposed on us, the systems that we're in. And I love something else that you mentioned about even creating space between you and other family members.
Yeah,
That's tough.
right.
That is super tough. I get that. I get that. So, how can women struggling with this, with their own belief systems, what they've been conditioned, taking that space from not just community members, but your own family? So, how do you work with women with those limiting beliefs?
You don't actually have to have the conversation. You don't have to sit with your mother and say, "Listen, I don't like the way you raised me, and really you're a bad influence for my kids, so I'm just not going to talk to you for a year." You don't have to do that. You create the space. You don't call us often. You're present, but you're not really all the time. Like send a text, so you keep in touch, but you don't expose your kids to that all the time because that consistency is what create a pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't do that. You start like explaining things different to your kids. So you start creating that core value in them so they can also recognize that that behavior is not aligned with them now. Before it wasn't aligned with you. Now it's not aligned with them. So they get to have a voice. They get to say, I didn't like the way you talked to mom, grandma, which is a shocker. And then when she turns around and said, I can't believe your daughter talked to me like that. You're not a good mother because you're not teaching them that they just have to respect me and not engage on that because I don't have to explain. We fall into the explaining, right? We fall into having to be the good girl that your mom wanted you to be. So now you're going to convince her that the new way that you're raising your kids is the right way. That's never going to happen unless she wants to heal, unless she wants to take up that journey. She's not ever going to understand or meet you where you are. So why are you going to argue? When my mom says something to me, and she still does, she's 84, and she'll say something that maybe 10 years ago would poke me and get a reaction out of me, I just smile. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you because I'm not available for that. I'm not subscribing to justify the way I mother my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not subscribing to that. So you set the boundary. You pick and choose your battles. You decide who in your family is aligned with the way you want to raise your children. And those are the people that are going to spend more time with you. The other ones is going to be selective. Doesn't mean you're going to erase them, but you are going to control the amount of time those people have with your kids.
You know, you did such a great job of explaining that. You actually just segued right into my next question. Why do some women struggle with setting healthy boundaries? Why do we do that? And what advice would you give to someone who feels guilty putting themselves first?
Well, first of all, we want to be liked and loved. That's a human condition, right? We all want to be liked and loved. We don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. So we make ourselves uncomfortable because that's the way we have been raised, right? The burnt toast. If you take it, if you put yourself last, then you are a good human. I don't believe that. If I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be a good mom. I'm not going to be a good wife. I'm not going to be a good friend. I'm not going to be a good human. I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to hate everyone, right? So that's the first thing. So I told my kids since they were little that it's okay to do things for yourself first. Like in the plane, you put the oxygen mask on you first so then you can have the oxygen and you can help everybody else. If you're depleted, if you're tired, if you're frustrated, if you're angry, you're not good for anyone. So take care of yourself first. That was the first thing. And your second question was?
My second question was, what advice do you give someone who feels guilty putting themselves first? And you gave us that advice.
But at the end of the day, Summer, let's go into the guilt. Why are you feeling guilty? What is translating to you? What examples did you have when you were growing up that give you the evidence that when you take care of yourself, it's not a good thing? So we got to go in there. And it's usually, you're a psychologist, you know that going in there is not comfortable, but when you're uncomfortable is when you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It is exactly where change starts and where it begins. It's just like that situation where you were able to reflect. You saw your little girl cowering in the closet, her hand hurting, swollen. Something clicked in you and said, is this the way that I want things to go down? Is this the way that I want to parent? Is this the way I want somebody to grandparent my children? These are the shifts that I'm going to be making. And you recognize that. And I think a lot of people just get really, really stuck there. Either they don't recognize it and then they wonder why.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Right.
You know, stop being the victim. Like everything is happening to me and I don't know, I don't have a solution. You know how many DMs I get on Instagram about, but you don't understand. I do understand.
Yeah.
I do understand. But this is the thing. Your brain needs evidence. So you have to have confidence in yourself. And that confidence is learned. So when you learn and you practice and you master that confidence, you're giving your brain evidence that you're capable to make the right decisions. If you don't, then your brain is going to play with you. Towards the end of the interview, I'm going to give you 5 lies that we tell ourselves, really, that help a lot of my clients overcome what we are talking about. Because I think it's very important to recognize you cannot fix the problem unless you acknowledge there is a problem.
Absolutely.
And if you live in avoidance, then that's exactly what you're going to continue living for the rest of your life, because you are not allowing yourself to actually witness yourself.
Yeah. There's so much you've offered here, but there's a couple more questions I have for you. You also are a podcaster. Tell us a bit about your podcast, Don't Shrink to Fit, and your book, Brighter Days. Tell us about those.
I'll tell you real fast. My podcast is very much who I am because I was shrinking to fit my whole life to be that good girl, right?
Yes.
And I came to understand that to fit in, which is something that everybody wants to fit in, make us take part of ourselves, high part of ourselves, because we are fitting in. So when I understood that what I wanted was to belong, then the whole thing changed. Because when you belong, you're part of something. And to be part of something, you have to be authentically yourself.
Yeah.
So I name my podcast Don't Shrink to Fit. And I interview women from all over the world that had at some point in their life shrink to fit. And they no longer do that. And how amazing it is to be in that frequency where you start attracting things instead of chasing. It's as simple as going from fear to trust. When you do things out of fear, you're going to push, manipulate, you're going to create stories, you're going to force yourself. But when you get to that finish line, you're going to still in fear because that whole journey was feeding with fear, you know?
Yeah.
But when you do it with trust and you allowed the universe to bring you things, you are open to receive. You're in a different frequency. So you're not only going to enjoy that journey, but when you get there, you're going to have enough evidence that everything that you have received, you deserve it because it came to you. You didn't have to force yourself into that. So when I interview these women and they share their journey and they give me more evidence that I am in the right track, oh my God, that's my high. That is my high. I enjoy it so much. And of course, you know, you have a podcast. You enjoy meeting people. You enjoy sharing the stories. You enjoy finding, you know, those things in common that we all as women have.
Yeah.
And I'm a true believer that we can only fly and we embrace each other. We're all angels with one wing. So come here, sister, embrace me so we can fly together. This is how I see it. And it is my high and I love it. And my book, you know, Brighter Days is Brighter Days, 88 Most Important Lessons Learned in Life for Women that Want to Increase Their Confidence, Resilience, and Courage. I wrote this book because I had cancer 3 times.
Mhm.
And in 2019, I had COVID and I got really, really, really sick. And my kids had already lost their dad. And the thought that my kids were going to navigate life without me in their ears, telling them, you know, what I think, what I feel, this is what I learned, maybe you should try this or that, motivated me to write this book for them
Mm.
so they would have something. I never in a million years thought that this book was going to be a bestseller. I never thought that women all over the world were going to buy it and get something out of it. And I love it so much that I had a promotion thing for 99 cents for the ebook. I never changed it because this wasn't about the money.
Right.
This was about getting my book in more hands and helping that woman that was crying in the shower,
Yeah.
that doesn't know what to do, that has an empty refrigerator, that has been betrayed by the love of her life, that doesn't have a relationship with her mother, that doesn't know what her relationship with money is. And another 80 something lessons that had served me become the person that I am. So it's there for them.
I absolutely love that. You've given so many examples. You've shared great tidbits about your journey. I know there's so much more. We've only scratched the surface. I mean, you just mentioned cancer. I'd love to go down so many different roads with you, but we've gotten to time almost. And as we come to the close of the interview, my last question is, and I know you're going to give some great takeaways here. My last question is, if there is one thing or multiple things you hope women take away from your message about authenticity and self empowerment, what would those tips or messages be?
Well, first of all, I want to tell every woman that is listening that your feelings are valid and they're not up for debate. Don't ever allow anybody to question your emotions. They are your emotions. But as we know, the emotions are a result of our thoughts. So that is where you have to do the cleanup. What are you allowing in your brain that is making you feel the way you feel? So if you get anything from this, is that you need to pause and really go to the mirror and have a conversation with her. She's your best friend. Your little maiden is inside of you. I always tell women, you get to midwife yourself. You need to learn to be your divine mother and stop looking somewhere else for that love, nurturing, and support that is already inside yourself. So I'm going to give you the 5 things that I wanted to give you really fast. Number 1, your brain lies to you. You become the narrator. So pay attention what thoughts you have in your head. Number 2, you are who you practice being. That is so important. The more you do things that are not aligned with the life that you want, the more you fit in the life that you are living right now. What you avoid controls you. And healing requires for you to be uncomfortable. So think about that. What are you avoiding? What are you pushing to the side? Because maybe there is the answer for what you want. Number 4, you are wired for emotions and built to regulate. Name and hold your emotions. Don't let them control you. Feel them. They're emotions, and they're not forever. They're going to pass. I'm sure that if you look back, you think about when you were 15 years old and you thought the world was over because the guy that you like in school didn't like you. Believe me, you got over that, and you can get over a lot of things in life, but you have to face those emotions, and you need to get curious. And number 5, you will suffer either way. Either way. So choose what battle you're going to fight. We didn't come to this life to suffer, but unfortunately, we go through the pain. So when we're choosy and when we get curious, it's easier to navigate this journey.
My goodness, Claudia, do we have some takeaways for people today? Thank you so much for joining me on the Core Women podcast.
I'm so excited. I'm so happy that we got this time together, and I so appreciate you, Summer.
Same here. I appreciate the time we shared and this conversation and what the listeners can take away from this as well. So thank you again. And you can connect with Claudia Noriega Bernstein on LinkedIn and Facebook. And you can find her book on Amazon. And you can also go out and find her podcast, Don't Shrink to Fit.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who may benefit from it. To learn more about Dr. Summer Watson, visit corewomen.com, where you'll find leadership and organizational development consulting, mentorship solutions, virtual assistant services through Core Business Solutions, the Human Forward Movement, and the Human Room, a space for meaningful conversations about keeping people at the center of leadership, business, and community. Dr. Watson is also available to facilitate and moderate engaging one-on-one interviews, panel discussions, and group conversations that inspire connection, learning, and action. Until next time, lead with purpose, connect with intention, and remember to put people first and on purpose.